So thank you, Priya. Thank you, Anil. I think Anil, Priya and I got Anil into this discussion because he's been dealing and talking to a lot of these developers and on ground, and it's very important. We thought it'd be very useful for the audience here to get some insights on what's going on the ground and how do you see all these trends evolving. It's sometimes research gives you a data based on annual reports and filings and everything, but you give more practical sort of output. So thank you, and welcome to the. Can you have the crowd applause to Priya and Anil, please? Thank you. So Priya, I'll start with you. Almost a decade of supplying into right. So almost a decade that we've been working on this on the report. We've seen, and we have a very active operation across the world, in China, everywhere. Right? But I'm very interested about the India-China comparison. Everybody wants to speak about it. And China is really doing so well in AI and a lot of new tech. But when it comes to real estate, whatever said and done, our top players are creating much more value than their top players. And we've seen that based on the research that we've been doing. Do you have any insights on this data point?
Yes. Honest, what's very interesting, there are a lot of parallels between the two economies, and we've been at the center of both of this because we've actively supplied in both India and China for not just that, probably last 20-25 years. And we've seen it too. So while the India growth story over the last year is a little bit similar at 2%, but it's interesting to see that China top 10 was 95% of their valuation. And it happened so because somewhere there was overestimation of the future demand, a lot of state funding, the lack of proper discipline. So China really built for the future rather than being totally aware of what's really going to happen in the future. However, India is very bottom. I think our developers are very mindful of where they are creating, what they are creating. So a good example would be developers who are always doing mid-affordable homes, now getting into premium and luxury because that's what the need of the hour is. A lot of developers segueing into hospitality, commercial, diversifying. So I think India real estate community is much smarter that way. We've seen in the last 10 years very few players who've actually gone bankrupt, while the largest ones in China, as you mentioned, have gone bankrupt or are at the verge of bankruptcy. So I think the difference is really the bottoms-up approach in India, where we're waiting for the demand and not really exceeding the demand so much. It's exceeding the supply so much that it leads into a disaster. So I hope we do not repeat the mistake that China does. And I'm very hopeful because, like you said, Indian diaspora is not just the largest, but actually the smartest as well. So I'll come to this community to not towards you.
So I'll ask the same question to Anil. Yeah, I want to ask you.
Yes.
Do you think Indian growth is sustainable?
Yes, it is very much sustainable. I was just about to add. It is a 360-degree growth trajectory. It is not one way. Look at the government initiatives. Look at the infrastructure being supported. Look at the number of airports which are going to come up in the country. Everything is going together. So this growth is going to be there. It is pretty sustainable. And the growth what we have seen in the last 5 years and the next 5 years will still be stronger than the last 5 years. And this is very well supported by the government, and it's pretty promising.
I think what Priya said about the developers gradually moving from mid-affordable, mid-luxury to luxury now when the opportunity rises, that's very much there, right? The brand and residence being another. This question is to Anil, and across the 10 years of our partnership, how was the moment that developer decides, brand and design quality shifted from a finishing touch at the end to a decision made up front? Because this is one important stats to while we say about all these data points, but one area where we've seen the growth in the market based on the various reports is that the value addition in real estate after a customer buys a property, that's gone up. Made interiors or investing in luxury clothes, that's gone up, right? So how have you sort of seen that this work?
Yeah, we generally ask this question to every developer that you want the same price of the bathroom fittings what you were willing to pay 5 years back, whereas you're charging now 3x of the per square feet. And a very interesting question. Why? Because now they are charging 3x the price what they were charging 5 years back, and they need to offer the similar value to the customer. And how they can offer a tangible value to the customer. They can invest money in the bathroom and the kitchens. They cannot show that this is the superior tile, this is the superior paint. So here, to bring that tangible value, we play a very pivotal role there. So the consumer is more aspirational now. They're very well aware and they understand the value of the brand, the technology and the quality. So since consumer is concerned about the quality, technology and design, hence the developers are at the very beginning of the project, and it is a founding decision now for every developer. It is a very critical decision. What it used to be 10 years back. For 10 years back, bathroom space was just a utility area. Today, it's an important space for every house. So it attracts a lot of investment for every developer. Hence, it's a critical decision making for every single house.
Social media and Instagram, it's
happening. Yes, it is happening actually.
And how have you seen the brands and the developers moving from building for a state to going across India, and also building from India to the rest of the world? I was having a discussion with the researchers saying, what will happen to tier 2, tier 3 developers? My prediction is that in 5 years from now, the biggest competitors for the tier 2, tier 3 developers are going to be the tier 1 developers getting into their turf, right? So, how have you seen that evolve?
An interesting point from your report says, Anas, that when we started this list, there were only 3 players out of the list who were developing internationally. Now there are 23 of them. That's like a nearly 8x jump. You look at Prism, you look at Burgundy, you look at Mahindra nowadays. Now they're catering for consumer who could buy in London, New York, Dubai, and they have to please that discerning customer. So I see the standard of construction, the standard of quality of what they are providing as an end product is significantly higher than what was in the past. I think there's no Indian standard anymore. Everything that we're now doing is global standard. Nothing is good enough for India anymore. What is good enough for India is good in the sky. So I think our standards are raising. The bar has been placed very, very high. And it's very exciting because it gives us a level playing field at a global stage where our Indian developers are going to break through. So yes, I believe this is what will go. Maybe next year we have 50 of these developers going international opponents.
This follow-on question with Anil. So if you look at some of the most trusted family business names, be it Godrej or Mahindra, so they all have gotten into real estate. And because it's a trust game, you have a trusted brand. And these are the sort of brands that resonate with the diaspora as well. So how have you seen that the growth evolving? For example, would you in the near future see a Godrej properties becoming number 1 in India? Is that a possibility, right? So
if we look back 10 years, before EDA, there used to be a lack of entity in India developing houses. Today, they are just 10% left, 90% vanished. Because consumer also believes that there's an organized brand. It's a constant.
If there's an organized brand behind a building, they would be able to deliver the building on time. They would be able to deliver the quality which is needed for a house. And hence, it gives leverage to the family names like Godrej, Mahindra, DLF. And if you look back, in 2024, 2025, the turnover of a company like Godrej used to be 5,000 crores. And look at the guidance of Godrej this year, which is 30,000 crores. So from a 5,000 crore to 30,000 crore, this is a magical figure. It is happening right because consumers are placing their trust in these founders. Because consumers are very much quality conscious. Consumer wants brand. Consumers are seeking that trust. And hence, these companies are going to grow multifold in the years ahead.
And these brands have built such a reputation over decades for different products, very close to your art. So I think the trust in these branded players is going to grow, and I agree with Anna. Godrej possibly has the potential of the largest real estate developer in the world. And we work very closely with them.
Right? And across this decade of institutionalization, it's an aspect. How has sustainability moved? Do you see a conscious input from real estate developers to opt for more sustainable offerings, for example, from your product? And is that? anyone can pick up, maybe Priya and then.
I'll get a start and Priya can end. We are far behind on that front. If you look at the global stage, that comes last for the Indian developers, the sustainability piece. Today, the Indian consumer seeks experience and the luxury, and hence the developer are trying to extend that and keeping the sustainability at the back seat. But eventually it has to grow, it has to evolve. The serious developers in India have started talking about it and they are compliant. They are also seeking every product which goes inside the building should be sustainability norms compliant. And this journey has now started catching up with the global trend in India.
I couldn't agree more when I talk to my colleagues across the globe. The standards there for sustainability are so high. Every product has to pass those minimum
Can you give us a couple of examples of your industry sample?
So, for example, the flow rate per faucet or the flow rate of a shower cannot exceed a certain limit. There are still no limits in India for that. High time there should be. The government is trying its best. Organizations like IGBC, which is stipulating green buildings in the country, have to play a more active role in doing this, because end of the day, sustainability, as much as we don't want to admit it, is going to be the front and center of everything. But yes, we're far behind. We're seeing progress, slow progress. We wish there was more conversation around sustainability, because for us as a brand, sustainability is one of the core pillars that we operate.
Just to add, look at the awareness among the consumers. Indian consumer is still not aware about the importance of sustainability and why it is required. Today, I'm being a consumer, I need a shower which gives 50 liters per minute flow. I don't care about the water. Whereas the outside, this is not the reality. Consumers are very well aware and they are cognizant of the environment and hence this behavior.
Okay. Last question before we open the floor to the audience. So we started residential was the main thing, and the commercial, it's a REITs, hospitality. How do you think the sector is evolving? With what is one bet, one sector that each of you think which will, grow in a positive way?
Yes. So, unless I still see India as a developing country and will continue to develop, and residential is going to remain the largest piece of the pie. Hospitality and commercial buildings being the very small base will see a surge in terms of percentage of growth, but their contribution will still remain less than 20% of the total industry turnover. But residential will command 75 to 80% of the total turnover in the industry. And why it is happening? Because we must have seen this whole migration which is happening. People do aspire for a better living, better education, better healthcare. They are going to move to the larger city from the villages, from tier 4 to tier 3, tier 3 to tier 2 and tier 1. And every city would require more housing. And the tier 1 city will continue to hold the largest share because the entire, the population from say tier 3, 4 will eventually come to tier 1 for everything. So residential will remain 75 to 80% and tier 1 will continue to hold the largest space.
And due to this rapid urbanization, India is going to build 10 million new homes in the next decade. So there's a lot of opportunity in the country. But I will bet very big on the hospitality sector, as I spoke earlier, because the demand is massive, the supply is limited, we get much better returns. So yes, that's another segment to mind for.
Yeah, that's a growing segment, no doubt about it. The number of hotels what we foresee coming into India, given the very small base, vis-a-vis residential.
Last question. In tier 2, tier 3 cities, have you seen very large purchase on a single SKU of, have you seen them in tier 2, tier 3 cities, like really expensive purchase?
Yes, it happens. We recently have witnessed one of our most expensive product being sold in Haryana, in Hisar. But those are the exceptional cases wherein every city will have those kind of descending consumers who are willing to spend money on living and lifestyle. So, and eventually tier 1, again, with the given base, will beat the weight.
but really large bathroom sizes in small towns. So it gives us a lot of space to experiment, put up our most expensive, the best products.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of interesting stories backstage.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave the floor to the questions and happy to take.
We'll do that next today.
Anyone who's buying a house here
Yep.
can ask about the bathroom.
Any questions from the audience? Please.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. Just a couple of questions. Maybe I missed it. How do you measure the valuation in case of an unlisted company? And I guess you also mentioned about when it comes to measuring the wealth of families or the real estate developers, and Adani Group is moved number one family. They've grown by 73%, and that's the fastest. And if you see the others on the list, they haven't grown as much. So, what parameters have we used to? Because I think, if I'm not wrong, you possibly mentioned land holding. So, we only taken land which is owned, land which is developed, or because a lot of it could also be land which is on a long-term lease. So, what all do you factor in? So, two questions. One is, how do you include a unlisted? Like, how do you measure their valuation? And for the wealthiest real estate families, how do you kind of calculate that? And how is it? You explained Adani, it's 73% with everyone else. And do you use the same metrics then? Because if it is about land holding, then why is it that DLF families has declined, or we use different parameters for different models? Thank you so much.
Thank you. So for listed entities, we cannot do much. We have to go by market cap, how much ever land holdings are there, or we can't do anything about it. We have to assume that it's being priced in, and we have to stick with that valuation. Regarding private enterprise, of course, it's based on the latest available annual reports, and then we look at various multiples, be it by EBITDA or the valuation multiples that we apply in these private companies. When it comes to, again, land holdings, we are at liberty to only take the land holdings that are part of the company. So we don't look at private land holdings, which we don't have access to, which we don't know what it is, right? So we stick to that. But it's mainly based on the financials. In Adani Reality's case, it's basically because of consolidation. So last year it was Adani Reality. Now in the Adani properties, they've consolidated all the real estate indirect direct businesses into one platform, which has had a surge in the overall revenue and the PAT as well. So that is how the valuation has gone up for Adani properties, and the entire company is owned by the family. So that's what the valuation of the individual also is. We can share the detailed methodology maybe after this year's, but yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks. Right, this is Wehul from Investment.
Hi.
But just wanted to ask, what is led to IHCL and Phoenix Wings wealth increasing by 17% and 13%? What are the factors?
The value, right?
Yeah, value.
It's listed entity. So it's basically you're talking about the value of the business, right?
Yeah, wealth-wise, value.
Value of the business.
Yeah.
It's listed. So based on the year-on-year comparison, how is the value gone up by?
IHCL will be mostly expansion. Taj has maximum number of hotels.
The reason.
Yeah.
The reason. Oh, okay.
I could say for IHCL.
Yeah.
Phoenix may be commercial because, like we said, there is a lot of growth that's happening across residential and commercial segments. And both the companies that you mentioned operate in hospitality and commercial respectively. Probably that's a reason for growth.
So all the residential guys have gone down.
The base was already very large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Correct. It's going. But if you look at the growth from March, that's it's gone up. But the last 1 year has been pretty interesting because of few of the reasons that we could find was, of course, the Middle East war has had an impact on people wanting to buy, or AI-related job worries have an impact. Some say that again, it's based on my interaction with the developers, what they say is that the trickle-down effect of the interest rate coming down in December is not fully taken into effect. But there is some positive signs of recovery that's happened since March anyway. So by the time we put out the next year's list, most of these losses will be paired, is what we think.
That's it.
Yes.
just to add to this point, we keep meeting all the large developers. We keep talking about their funding. So what has happened actually, everyone forecasted post-COVID and the supplies were made available accordingly. So we saw that spot in 24, 25. And no one actually planned for 25, 26 thinking that, okay, let's wait for the demand. So this was bound to come this year. And now again, we go back and talk to these guys, kind of supplies they have planned for next 5 years is more than what it was in last 5 years. So the next 5 years is going to be more promising, even for the residential sector. These are the early signs and the guidance is what we get from the developers directly.
Yeah. Any more questions? So thank you all for that insightful conversation, and I request the panel to stay with us on stage.